We got to talk about AI. Things are getting very complicated very, very quickly, and it's coming from places that I did not expect necessarily. Comedian Sarah Silverman and two other authors are suing Meta and Openai, the people behind ChatGPT, because they say that the AI language model was trained on their copyrighted materials without their knowledge or consent. So here come the lawsuits. Yes, very, very nice. Joining us on 710 KURV to talk about this very thing, John Rizvi, the patent professor, thepatentprofessor.com. So do they have a case? I know that sounds obvious, but do they have a case?
Yeah, so they do, and it's a little bit unusual as far as copyright infringement cases go, because most of the time, when you sue for copyright infringement, you're concerned about somebody else's output. In other words, what they're producing after having looked at your work. But in these cases, the issue is, as you said, is ChatGPT and Meta actually ingesting the basic work, and that's what the lawsuit is based on, is that they never gave permission for their work to be used to be internalized into this database and used by ChatGPT.
I've heard similar arguments from artists and animators online, especially for, what is it called, Stable Diffusion, which is the AI art generator, that it's basically the same argument, that you've taken our works to base off all of these. It's like a big database, the way AI works.
Maybe we should explain how it works.
That's for the audience. So the way AI works is like it's this big brain that takes experiences from the internet. It combs the internet for information, and in this case, it would be pictures. So if I said, "Hey, I want a picture of Spider-Man," it would scour the internet for pictures of Spider-Man, and it would generate an image. Hey, this is Spider-Man, based off of what everybody on the internet is telling me, more or less. It's kind of a.
It would steal those images. Is that what you're saying?
Reductive way of saying it. So in this case, with ChatGPT and writings from these authors and comedian Sarah Silverman, it's pretty much the same claim that the AI is pulling from our copyrighted materials, and they really didn't have the licensing to do any of that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of the whole trained on that. You've trained using my work. I've never given permission for that. If it were not ChatGPT or software, you never see those types of cases. Like, I mean, somebody could ingest and internalize all of the works of someone, but it's not until they actually produce output that's an infringing output do they get sued. I mean, in this case, the problem is that the ChatGPT is not the one that's utilizing the output, right? So it's impractical to sue millions and millions of users and bring separate lawsuits, but it is practical to bring a class action lawsuit, which is a bunch of plaintiffs kind of ganging up together and going after one defendant, and that's Openai, the makers of ChatGPT, and Meta. So both of them. And it's not just, Sarah Silverman's the known comedian that's kind of taken on the face of the lawsuit, but it's a class action lawsuit. So there's, and I don't know the size of it, but there's certainly, she's bringing the case on behalf of multiple plaintiffs.
Joining us on 710 KURV, the patent professor, John Rizvi, thepatentprofessor.com. Go ahead, Davey.
If I were a musician, which I'm not, and I lifted passages of music from somebody and included them in my work, I could not do that without getting permission from the musician who started it, and without typically paying a fee. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Well, then how does AI work such that it would put itself at risk? This seems to me to be open and shut, but I didn't go to law school.
And so the issue is that they are training. ChatGPT is training on the author's works or the comedian's work, and the actual output is ultimately being used by someone else. Now, just because they're suing ChatGPT does not mean or OpenAI, the makers of ChatGPT, doesn't mean they can't sue someone else as well, because the author of intellectual property, of a copyright, they get to determine when somebody uses their work, where they use it, who uses it, and how it's used. Like, they get to license or give permission for that. In this case, you make a good point, like, why is it not an open and shut case? They never provided a license or permission to Openai for their work to be ingested or trained on. And it's an evidentiary issue. Like, if, and they don't have access to how OpenAI and ChatGPT got their work. So they don't have that evidence. So they're basing it on that the only way you can really summarize my book is that you have ingested the book. You've gotten access to it. You've trained on it. And it's tough for OpenAI to defend that position without revealing their sources, right? So if they say, no, we didn't copy your book, we took the material from whatever database, because that's giving away their competitive edge, their trade secret. So if ChatGPT reveals their methods and their source, now they'll have a bunch of competitors that enter the market saying, we do the same thing that ChatGPT does, we use the same databases and the same methods, and we do it at half the cost.
I mean, it sounds like they're going to have to show receipts for all this at the very least, right? Like every book ever written in existence, every movie, every song, every piece of artwork.
You can use my stuff, signed with love, Sarah Silverman.
And I'm sure, textbooks aren't outside of the range. Like college textbooks aren't outside of the purview of which this thing is scouring. John Rizvi is the patent professor joining us on 710 KURV. So at what point there's a saying that I heard a long time ago. If you plagiarize from one person, it's illegal, but if you plagiarize from many people, it's research. How much truth is there to that statement?
Yeah, so in terms of the copyright infringement, that another work being too close, I mean, there's they do look at the portion of the work that's taken. So if you only take small portions from multiple works, it's really hard for any one party to claim that their work has been taken. In this case, what's making it a difficult call is that if you provide a detailed summary of someone's book, their claim is that I never gave you permission to access the book, and that's difficult to do when you sue when a human being is doing the infringing, because they've either purchased the book or they've been given the book for free from somebody that's purchased it. So under the first sale doctrine, once you purchase a book, you're able to sell that book to someone else, sell it at a garage sale, give it to someone, and the ultimate end user is okay because the author has been compensated. That first sale compensates the author. The issue here is that they're claiming there's no first sale, that basically you trained on my material and you did it in a way where we haven't given anyone permission to this material, and you trained on it. So the only way you'd be able to summarize this book is if you is by training on the material, and that's the infringement right there.
Is the genie out of the bottle? Has the Pandora's box been opened? Is it too late to go back and make all of this right, or is this the one big hurdle that needs to be crossed to make everything squared away?
Ultimately, I believe, and this is a prediction, that the only way to really address this is going to be with new legislation, new laws that are particularly directed towards the type of large-scale infringement that's going on. I mean, this is clearly, if the case goes through and it's found to be infringement, this is going to be the biggest case of infringement in pretty much the history of the world. Never has copyright infringement been done on a scale like that what ChatGPT is doing. So you're right. That's like, how does what's going to happen going forward? I think if there has to be legislation that permits authors and creative people that create works, like in the case of graphics, to benefit if somebody trains on their work and then future users start benefiting from it. Currently, there's absolutely no compensation provided to the authors when that happens, and that's a wrong that there needs to be a remedy for. And maybe a traditional copyright infringement suit using current laws is not the best way, but that's all the authors have right now.
If, and at risk of making this more complicated, this whole genie out of the bottle parallel that I'm making here, the analogy, could it be possible that after this, let's say that they settle everything and everything's cool and everything's peachy keen, and Chat GPT kind of splits, like there's a black market AI type scenario where we have an illegal AI that has all these copyrighted materials on it, and we have another one that's on the level that it's had all of its dues squared away. Like if there was another AI that is just bypassing all of this stuff and still reaping all the benefits, is it possible that we could have like a black market illegal AI system going on?
And that's a real concern, and that might be what you're talking about when you say, is the genie out of the bottle? Openai is, a well-funded company. They have at least the deep pockets to potentially, settle out of court and pay at least some. I don't know if they'd be able to cover the entire judgment for all the infringement that's taken place. But I think you're saying, what if there's a black market software that's run out of a basement in someone's house? They don't, where's the enforcement? Like, even if they get a judgment against, the person that's running it, how are they possibly going to be able to pay for the infringement? And I don't know what the solution is. Maybe legislation that provides, in addition to civil damages, money damages, perhaps some jail time for the infringement, and then there may be. You see
how complicated this gets very quickly.
It does, and again, like, it's even more complicated if you think of the jurisdiction. Like, what if the infringer is not even in the United States? Now, now what do? You can make all the laws you want for copyright infringement, criminal penalties here, but if the infringer is in another country, now what happens?
Hey, John, thanks a lot for giving us the information. John Rizvi, the patent professor, thepatentprofessor.com, joining us on News Talk 710 KURV.